morning, everybody. It's great to see you. As we heard, we got a real rock star panel here. What I love about this panel is that clearly they're all super accomplished CMOs, and we're lucky to get the opportunity to hear from them. True practitioners. These are not just influencers or analysts with theories, but these people are living the day-to-day, and for me, kind of hats off. It's a super tough job, super dynamic job. So as I alluded to earlier, CMO is a very dynamic job. You've got everything from building brand and awareness, generating demand, supporting the sales enablement and sales initiatives, and on and on and on, constant pressures. So it's just a polyglot of responsibility and roles that you have to wear, or hats that you have to wear. So we want to talk about that really quickly across the panel here. If you guys wouldn't mind, ZenDesk clearly built on brand and product. Kind of now shifting and public market, you're public, and a lot of sales pressure. Wall Street's watching, so probably a lot of movement and focus on sales and sales ops. LeadData clearly have ridden the coattails of Salesforce, which is a great thing to do as a product and a company. Clearly have built success on that. And then Atlassian, very product focused, and probably a little less about the big brand and big awareness campaigns. So if you would, just maybe in a sentence, which probably means like 10 for a marketing person, tell us a little bit about your role at your company as CMO.
Sure. So we are helping to create a category for the market. So probably my first job as a CMO today is I'm an evangelist. I have to be out there all the time educating not just people like you, but also the market influencers in the space and people that cover the market, industry analysts and press, et cetera. So evangelism is sort of top of my food chain right now. I'm also a revenue marketer because I hold a goal for 50% of our pipeline creation to come from marketing. So that's really important in a startup. When I joined the company, we had strictly an outbound selling motion. We did not have any inbound, so we had to change the game on that front. And then, of course, brand is near and dear to my heart. I loved Topo's comments on that. Scott talked about how strong companies grow from having a strong brand, and it's really important when you're a small player in a large market to establish a brand quickly.
Yeah, I think I echo the thoughts. The boundaries and role of not just the CMO, but the marketing organization really don't exist. And so for those of you who were here for the earlier session, I view the role of all marketers really is to think about choreographing the customer experience all the way from, hey, I'm building awareness for my company into we have an existing customer we've converted, we want to maintain that engagement. And so it's really a proliferation throughout that journey. And if I simplify this, I often have to remind my team and even myself that we have two roles and responsibilities. One is to build love for our brands, and the second is to play a pivotal role in helping to accelerate and drive growth. And so both of those things don't have a clear separation from the rest of the company and the organization. And so I like to think about the role of marketing as really choreographing the customer experience, regardless of where the resources sit within a company.
Yeah, I'm aligned with a lot of what you both are talking about. I think what I tell my teams is really that we serve a dual purpose in marketing. So on the one hand, our job is to really sit between product, sales, and leadership and help evolve the brand, evolve the message, and really evolve the product strategy by understanding our customers, understanding their needs, and helping to meet those needs. So that's a very long-term vision, very strategic side of what we do. At the same time, we are in the trenches every single day with sales, hitting our leads, pipeline, and bookings targets in every country imaginable. And so you have to be constantly pivoting your brain between how do I evolve and grow this company and grow our TAM to how do I hit this quarter? Because if I miss this quarter, we can't do that other thing.
Great, thanks. If I think about the market in general, independent of the products and services that you're offering. Something that comes to mind are words like optimized and omni-channel, next generation, enterprise class, data-driven, personalization, and I think the list goes on and on and on. And I think you could probably just jam those all together and find it on somebody's tagline. My point is there's a lot of noise out there. No matter what product or service you're in, if it starts taking off, you're going to have about 27 competitors within a week or a month kind of saying the same words and doing the same things. So I think something really valuable for the audience would be to understand what you guys feel are the real necessary assets that you have to develop to kind of poke through the noise and get some recognition, if you don't mind.
I'll go first. Yeah, so for me, it really comes down to product quality and meeting the needs of our customers. I think there are many tips and tricks that we marketers can do to generate more leads, to increase conversion rates. We do all sorts of things in partnership with sales. That stuff is all really important, but as you said, anytime you do anything, your competitor is going to be copying you 2 seconds later. So the way we win is keep our product really meeting the needs of our customers, and then communicate simply the value to those customers. Sounds simple, but that's really the core of our success.
I think it's a huge challenge. And then how do you get that message out? So is that through the assets, like the real tangible assets? Are these case studies or customer testimonials, or how do you get that message out that you're delivering on your promise? Kind of speaking to the slide that was up on the.
Yeah. Customer testimonials are an incredibly important thing, and I always say to my team, the best salesperson that we know is actually our customers, right? And so we try to bring our customers and prospects together as much as possible. Obviously, for the little guys, it's a little bit harder because we can't afford it. There's no ROI there. But for our mid-market and our larger customers, we say, let's show customer testimonials that are in their industry that they can relate to. Let's bring them to events and help them talk to each other, et cetera. That stuff really works.
All right, so let the customer speak. And
let the customer speak.
Yeah. I would agree with that. It's I came to B2B world from a consumer background, and so most of my career has been spent in consumer marketing, building brands and driving growth. And it's remarkable to me. My thesis, or sort of hypothesis, is that most enterprise and B2B companies are anywhere from 5 to 7 years behind consumer brands in terms of how they think about brand building, storytelling, and driving growth. And for anybody who's a B2B marketer here, or you're an entrepreneur or CEO and you're trying to build a marketing function, I would really encourage you to attract folks who come from a consumer background and find the right mix of expertise within the scope of the team, because a lot of what I believe drives decision-making is not just the functional aspects of your product or service, but really the emotional connection between the problem you're trying to solve, but the individual and why they should make the decision for your product. In fact, I also believe that a lot of B2B, might sound silly, but a lot of B2B purchase decisions are even more emotionally meaningful for an individual, because you effectively have a decision maker or a team making a decision to bet their company or their function's capability on your solution. And there was a point at which somebody's sort of sticking their neck out to sign a check, sign a PO and say, I'm spending X thousand, X $100,000, X $1 million, and my name is sort of at the bottom of that thing. And that's a very human experience. And adding 5 more features to your product isn't going to make the difference between whether or not you sort of cross that line. At the end of the day, it comes down to trust and connection, and every great consumer brand is built on those 2 pillars.
Awesome. So I really like what you're saying about the consumer brands, and it seems like B2B marketing certainly has moved in that direction. It sounds like what you're saying is talk a little bit less about what you do, but more about what you're doing for your customer and your market, and figuring out how to get that message across, right? So tap onto the emotions, tell them how they're gonna make their bonus and be happy and be able to deliver on the promise that they're making to their customers.
I mean, yeah. I mean, sometimes we make it more complex than it needs to be. I mean, these are great brands, everyone on the panel, but no offense to anybody who's in the room from Oracle, but I would welcome, and I would be willing to pay for this if anyone could show me any Oracle advertising that has a photo of a human being. Now, maybe that doesn't work for Oracle, right? But my point is more broadly that really elevating the role of your customer through your marketing. Jeff, you mentioned storytelling, and really making it, human. And I think that can be really powerful. And sometimes we overthink and over-engineer a lot of how we look at our messaging.
Super helpful. I'm just going to iterate on that one bit, and then I'm going to ask Karen a different question. I think all three of your companies, if I go to your websites right now and look at your homepages, you do talk about more about the benefit and the value proposition. So clearly, again, kind of practicing what you preach, which is awesome. So shifting gears a little bit, Karen, you guys, LeadData, really going through a pivot right now. So entering into a new product offering, into a new market category, and almost a category creation of sorts. One that's been talked about a little bit. You really are spearheading this new category. So you talked about that your role as an evangelist. So maybe you could talk about the pivot and the role that you're playing in the pivot and how you're driving that into the market.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I joined LeadData, and by the way, I agree with what both these panelists said about your top assets being your product and your brand and the emotional connection. And so part of that is when I joined LeadData, we had an awesome product that worked. But it was a tool in a bag of many, many sales and marketing technologies for any vendor. And so what we really looked to do is move from a tool offering to a platform, taking advantage of something we believed was happening and our customers were talking about, which was the consolidation of operations functions within companies. Operations teams are now more strategic than ever with the proliferation of data and technologies. It's the operations teams that are leading the charge on go-to-market strategy and execution. And so we saw an opportunity to move from a tool to a platform, so that is the pivot. And we started talking with customers and with industry analysts and with partners, and it seemed that there was this new category emerging called revenue operations. And it is indeed emerging, and it's something we're taking advantage of now, but it's tough to create a category. You need a lot of people behind you, including competitors. So we welcome the opportunity and are enjoying the journey.
Yeah, so you have to spend a lot of time and money and effort educating the market on what you're talking about in general, and then talk about why and why now and why you and all those amazing things. That big challenge, and congratulations on the shift, and I'm sure it'll be a great success. So Jeff, big brand update to ZenDesk. It's beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm a little biased. But, it's a big shift. So the Buddha went away. Everybody knew the Buddha for a decade, I think served you guys well. But this is a big challenge and a big change. As CMO, how do you approach that, and what do you think of it, and why was it necessary?
Well, I think the Buddha was awesome, and we love the Buddha. But we, as a company, were at the time becoming a multi-product company. So we had just been ZenDesk, this one ZenDesk support, and we were broadening our portfolio and making it much more omni-channel to meet kind of the evolving needs of our industry. So with that big shift, we felt we needed to do a brand shift, as we were frankly just growing up. We'd gone from being this startup that exploded, all self-serve, all SMB, all startup, to we're being brought up market because more and more mid-market companies want us, more and more enterprise companies want our offerings, which is exciting and great. We wanted a brand that matched to that, which while still maintaining a lot of the playful, fun ZenDesk personality, which I think is still there. Go to our homepage, you'll see there's some very interesting illustrations. So it has been a fun journey.
Awesome. Yeah, and again, it's you got to figure out how you're spending your time and money, and doing a rebrand is obviously super expensive and takes a lot of people a lot of time to do it. And clearly, you guys pulled it off, and it seems to be propelling. You guys are exploding, which is fantastic to see. Really fun. Data and digital. I think obviously being data-driven, is super important to marketers these days. So I'd really like to hear how you guys are, living that. What are you doing? And then how far into the sales funnel are each of you responsible for now? Because it's clearly getting further and further, if not completely all the way through. Whereas, I would say a decade ago or even more recently, is this notion of leads over the wall, right? Whether you said you were doing that or not, that's what was going on. But clearly marketing has a lot more responsibility of maintaining customers, whether you have a free trial and you need to convert them, keep them, retain them. So it would be great to hear from you guys how you are actually doing this today in your companies.
Yeah, we, first of all, the Topo presentation, if you saw it, talked about quantity and quality of data. I think that's a really important point. But if you're in a SaaS company, and you're the CEO or you're a leader and executive in the company, you're able to actually track a tremendous amount of information. One of the challenges I saw coming into Atlassian a couple of years ago was we had a lot of disconnects between the data. And so one of the early decisions we made was to consolidate our entire data science analytics organization into one unified team. And now that sits within the marketing organization for the whole company. Now, regardless of where it sits, it doesn't matter. What's powerful is when you can begin to connect insights and information about an impression, marketing behavior on your website, whatever tools you use to attract and engage customers. The Atlassian community is a big part of our business. We get 2 million visitors a month. Taking it from there all the way through in-product data. And that journey sounds logical and easy, but is actually quite complex. So having the right team in place to help you unlock those insights and sort of think about that funnel end to end is really powerful. And if you're an offline business, you're a server-based business, you're selling on-prem software and you have a sales team, that's okay. You could still begin to stitch that understanding from sales calls, from qualified leads who are interested in different types of information before they convert into a sales call. But building that, we call it customer DNA, a unified view of the customer, where all of that information is synthesized, is the prerequisite for you being able to unlock the kind of value that you need to drive the lift. And we've seen, easily year over year, 10 to 15% improvements in our ability to go from evaluations to conversion and paying customers because of that.
Yeah. Awesome.
We've gone through a similar journey. When I came into ZenDesk, the first thing I did is hired a team of rockstar analysts because we weren't that data-driven as an organization. And we have built subject matter expert analysts throughout our different teams. Sales has theirs, we have ours. We have a centralized team that lives within the IT organization, or kind of the broader IT organization. This has been an excellent win for us, is the only way to put it. First thing, I also aligned with that topo slide, like, look at the data that matters. Don't waste your time on data that doesn't matter. I require all of my teams, maybe PR gets a little like, okay, you don't have to be data-driven, but everyone else has to be data-driven because it's super important, because we have to understand what is getting our customers through our funnel and helping them be successful. We've also seen very big wins by taking a very data-driven approach. You map that with understanding customers, actually talking to customers. Those two things together are an amazing win. In answer to your other question about how far down the funnel are we, we're way down the funnel. Like, I think we are deep into stage 3, stage 4 of pipeline. So we own up to stage 2. Everybody has slightly different stages, but we are increasingly marching our way down. And what we tell our teams are, okay, you own pipeline numbers, but you really own bookings numbers, right? Sales owns the booking number, but doesn't matter how much pipeline you generate, because the street doesn't reward us for marketing did a good job of generating pipeline. They reward us based on how much bookings did we do, what is our revenue growth. That collaboration with sales, where we both feel ownership of those numbers, and occasionally panic about those numbers, et cetera, is a really powerful win.
So people on your team have accountability and are goal-driven by numbers in the funnel at this point, or are you guys just saying, like, we really need 127, go team, and if you make it, great. If you don't,
yeah, we don't have quota like sales. So sales obviously has quota, is quota driven. We are not comped quota. However, we have very specific targets. We take targets at the MQL level, at the opportunity level, at the pipeline level, both stage 1, stage 2, and then we analyze the heck out of conversion rates all the way down. And we say, that's nice, you got a lot of pipe that didn't convert. That doesn't count, right? You failed. Right?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. How far down does it go from an accountability perspective? The MQL still counts, but it didn't convert down the line, so
yeah, I
who
mean,
cares?
It has to be a shared collaboration with sales. You know, you can have those really annoying conversations of the leads suck, the whatever, the pipeline was no good. What you really need is an open dialogue with sales, and we, for the most part, have gotten that where it's much more, hey, why wasn't this lead good? What was wrong with it? Oh, okay, we'll stop buying that kind of lead or stop attracting that lead and move our resources over to getting these kinds of leads instead.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Karen, did you want to add?
Yeah, maybe just a quick comment. We're smaller than the two companies represented beside me here. But one of the things we did even as a small company is we did consolidate the operations function with the foundation being data. So everything from our planning, our annual sales plan through all of our go-to-market activities, whether they be inbound, outbound, ABM, channel, all that data that flows through the CRM systems and all the other systems you use in your sales and marketing stacks, which are many. Try and get as foundational as you can. Make sure you have the right integration because all these systems are disparate and you end up with a lot of duplication of data, a lot of dirty data, and it starts with the data. You cannot measure anything well if you have dirty data. So that's what we did. We created a small team to focus on that around go-to-market.
Awesome.
Here's a hack, just a quick. So one of the early things I did is take, regardless of what role you have in the company, go into Keynote, go into Excel, go into Google Sheets, or go, whatever tool you use, and mock up the report that you want. So agnostic of what data is available, what capabilities exist, and get as sophisticated as you need to while still being valuable. So don't get into sort of the diminishing returns of what information you need, but what will help you make better decisions, and then work backwards from there. Because oftentimes you sort of get mired up in the complexity, but just sort of start with the deliverable. Draw it on a whiteboard if you need to, and then see what it'll actually take to get there.
Love it. I think we're pretty much out of time, but I'm going to ask one more question because I selfishly want to hear what you guys have to think. What does marketing look like? You can either say, in 2020, what you think you'll be doing more of, or what I'd really be interested in hearing, what does marketing look like in 5 years? Because I think the pace of change of marketing is dramatic right now. So 5 years seems like forever from now.
Jeff, I think you're well qualified to start.
Awesome. I'll start. What I'm kind of obsessed with in this world is that the communication with customers is changing dramatically, and customers are more and more saying, I'm not talking to the marketing department, I'm not talking to the sales department, I'm not talking to the support department, I'm talking to the brand. And they have increasingly high expectations of us. We have to be perfect, right? Because the switching costs to switch to someone else are getting lower and lower. So I think marketing's role as these silos go away and these teams all have to work better together using all this data to communicate more flawlessly with our end customers, our role is to orchestrate that. It's going to be super hard, right? Like, especially if you work in a larger enterprise where those silos have been built up for the last 30 years, that is incredibly hard. The startups have already, these growth startups like Airbnb, like Uber, et cetera, have already been tackling this challenge. They already have a more seamless communication with their end user, but that's the big shift, I think.
Love it.
Yeah, I think if you think about what the marketing org will look like, I think there'll be blurred lines between who came from a consumer background and an enterprise background. It's going to be the best, I think, marketing and go-to-market teams will be comprised of expertise across the board with increasing specialization around obviously data analytics and insights, sort of the quant side of capability building, and then storytelling, and sort of both of those things coming together.
Great, and I agree with what's been said. I also think there's an opportunity for the more sophisticated marketing teams to not just run the customer experience process, but also to run your entire go-to-market strategy. So in the future, we can see all of the operations components living in marketing and help to drive on the front end, the planning and the actual go-to-market, and on the flow-through journey, the customer experience itself. And that's going to be absolutely underpinned by really good data. I believe the predictive stuff is finally going to really work. I believe that intent data is going to be huge, and I also think that there will be many, many use cases for AI that we don't have today.
Awesome. So I think we really heard a recurring theme here, and it really becomes all about the customer, which I think is obvious but very hard to accomplish. First and foremost, your product has to deliver on the promise and let your customers speak and tell your market and your audience about those successes in whatever way you can. But then also connecting with the customer in a real way. Treat your company as if it's a person talking to another person. Seems to be the future of marketing. So with that, I would love to thank our panelists for their time and
Thank you.
information.
Thank you.
Thank you.